Those decisions, and some of them have been outlined for us in the presentation, have to do with earthquake safety, with the low heritage value attributed to the old bridge, with the higher service levels that are being demanded of the bridge, and of course of the 100-year lifetime. In all of those cases, I found myself disagreeing with the views of my colleagues about how we should consult the public and about the information that we needed to have and that we needed to provide the public in order to get good decisions. The first one, earthquake safety, was the factor that really drove the initial studies on the bridge. From the point of view of council, and I'm talking always, we saw the video, which I think was posted on the city website, of the impact of an earthquake on the bridge, and that convinced us all that some major work was needed. I think that, and this has emerged certainly, and even here tonight, it's emerging the fact that we have to dig a little more, and we should have dug a little more deeply into that whole case of issue of earthquake safety. We should have asked exactly what will happen to the bridge, what will happen to people on the bridge in the event of an earthquake, and of the various levels of earthquake. Will the bridge collapse into the water? Will it get stuck open? What will be the impact if we do a moderate repair on the bridge of the kind that was first suggested? And of course, not only what will happen to the bridge, but what will happen to other public buildings where we could also put money, because always we're weighing off options. The degree of risk that people want to accept in terms of the loss of the bridge, the loss of use of the bridge, even loss of life, is not a technical decision. That's a decision on which the public can express a view. And I think that's where we should have solicited views of the public. Heritage has not been much discussed, although we did have a consultant's report that told us that this would be a provincially important bridge if it was in Ontario. My reading of the Ontario legislation is that if the bridge were owned by the government of Ontario, we simply would not be having this debate at all. Fixing it is technically feasible, we would fix it. Kind of envious of the and again, the reports I'm relying on are on the city website, the report of the Heritage Consultant and the reference to the Ontario legislation. We've heard a lot about the new higher levels of service for the bridge, the pedestrian and bicycle path. I'm a cyclist, I agree that's important. At the same time, I recognize that it's 200 feet of very expensive bicycling route. The question is not, is this a good thing to have? The question is this the best thing we can do for cycling with this amount of money? And don't forget, we discarded the option of providing roadside bike paths by giving up a lane of traffic. That was an option that was open to us. Our traffic engineers, some of them tell us that the intersection adjacent to the bridge will fail if we cut down the traffic lanes to one in each direction. Fail means that you have a good probability of having to wait a light cycle before you can go through. There are a lot of failing intersections in this region. That's not the only one. And that's the kind of non-technical question, again, that the public could express a view on. As we were just shown, the engineers actually costed an option in which we repaired the old bridge and built a new bridge beside it. So that, to give us a fair comparison of the old and the new, that was the $103 million option we just saw on the PowerPoint. That was by far the costliest of all options, and as predicted, it was far too costly, got almost no consideration, and the engineering work that went into it was really money we shouldn't have spent. Finally, the durability issue, which we've also talked about. Building a 100-year bridge makes a lot of sense. It's a sensible way to approach building new, but repairing an old bridge to last 100 more years can be excessively expensive. Obviously, selecting that period skewed the analysis in favor of the new bridge. That should be a technical economic decision, capital costs today versus maintenance costs in the future. So simply deciding that you need a certain lifespan is not the way to go. It makes a fair comparison between two options, but it's not fair to the taxpayers. I guess you also have to ask the question, do we really need a 100-year bridge? We know transportation in the future is going to change. We don't know what it will look like. Will we be riding around in individually computer-controlled, low-emissions vehicles, or will we be focusing more on public transportation? Will we still want a mixed pedestrian bike path, which is one of the cornerstones of the new bridge proposal? I'm hearing from people walking on the Galloping Goose now who actually are saying, gosh, we would prefer separated bike pedestrian paths. I don't know which direction we're going to be going. Certainly mixing pedestrians and bicycles is our philosophy today, but when we're planning for a century, I'm not sure that we can be so confident. What about marine traffic? Point Hope Shipyards is going to be there for another 50 years, but will it be there for another century? We're not sure. Will we have a maritime museum up above the bridge, or will we have tall ship berthing? We may or we may not. If the bridge doesn't have to lift, of course, it's very easy to keep operating. But even if marine traffic simply declines so that we use it less, that has an impact on the durability of the bridge and the choice between capital costs and maintenance costs. So in brief, and to be fair, in hindsight, we on Council made the important decisions about earthquake safety, the level of service and durability. We costed the ways of achieving those goals with new bridge and repaired bridge, and we went out and asked the public, which do you prefer? And predictably enough, the public chose the more economically efficient way of doing that. What we should have done, I suggest, is to have costed different options. That is a minimal repair option that adds to the durability of the bridge, that makes it earthquake safe, but perhaps maintains the same levels of service. And all the way up to the brand new bridge with everything. And then we go out and ask people what they prefer. Now, where do we go from here? We've been told there's a problem if the referendum fails. And of course, everybody has a different plan B. I'm happy to give you mine. But I would suggest there's also going to be a problem if the referendum succeeds. And the problem is that we don't yet know what bridge we're going to be building. Will it have a rail crossing on it or not? As we were shown, the city reduced the cost of the new bridge from 89 million down to 77 million by not including the rail. The Greater Victoria Cycling Coalition, which is an important supporter of the new bridge, and this is one of their flyers, but you can certainly see it on their website, is supporting the new bridge in part because it has a rail link to downtown without sacrificing space devoted to cycling or multi-use. 2/3 of their members support rail, so that's important to them. The Greater Victoria Chamber of Commerce is telling their members to support the bridge because at 77 million, it's cheaper than the $80 million repair option. But of course, it's only cheaper because we saved $12 million by not putting the rail on it. So that's a very convenient misunderstanding for those promoting the bridge. Two groups each supporting the bridge, except they're supporting different bridges. Now, at some point, we're going to actually have to start designing that bridge. And at that point, one of those groups is going to be disappointed. The council has not asked to borrow sufficient money to include the rail on the bridge without grant assistance. That means either finding more money or designing it without the rail. Now, it is true that, and I supported this at the CRD, that the CRD has voted to endorse the city's request for further grant funding for the bike pedestrian path and the rail facilities. And that is certainly helpful, and it is a very important message of regional unity. But at this moment, it's far from certain that those grants will be forthcoming. If we don't get those grants, we'll face a tough decision. Are we going to scrape the bottom of the barrel to pay for the rail? We'll be in the same position we would have been if we'd proceeded, if the counter-referendum had not, the counter-petition had not succeeded and we proceeded with the old bridge and then the cost had risen. We'll be short of money because a lot of people, of course, have supported the bridge on the grounds that it has rail. Or do we eliminate the rail? And of course, if we eliminate the rail, we're then in almost the same situation as we would be if we simply closed the rail bridge today to rail and converted it over to bike pedestrian use. In other words, we have a bridge, we'd have given up the rail, we'd have gained the bike pedestrian path, we'd have had essentially the same level of service, we'd given up the roadside bike paths, at the cost of building a new bridge instead of repairing the old one. That's a pretty expensive way to achieve that objective. Anyway, I will stop here. I could go on, and I know